Good morning, over to LC Middle School students. This is Mr. Woolley again, and we'll continue our review on some equations. And remember, the information contained in this video is intended to be viewed only by the students in Mr. Woolley's classroom. By watching the video, you agree that you will not record or share the video with anyone who's not a student in Mr. Woolley's classroom. Now, our review today will focus on two-step equations. And there's a couple different approaches we'll take on some of these. Now, a two-step equation would be more than one step like we worked on yesterday. For example, we have 2x plus 5 here equals 25. The first thing I want to do is to get rid of any adding or subtracting of regular numbers. This is 2 times x. I don't want to mess with that yet. But this is just adding a regular 5. So the opposite of adding 5 is subtracting 5. And remember, we do that on both sides of the equation like we did yesterday. So positive 5 and negative 5 add up to 0. So you're left with just 2x over here. And then 25 minus 5 gives you 20. Now, if you remember from yesterday, now we're down to a one-step equation. 2 times x equals 20. So get rid of a times 2 by dividing each side by 2. Goodbye there. And 25 by 2 gives you 10. So x is equal to 10. And before I move on to that one, just double check. You can always double check again. And remember, 2 times 10 is 20. Plus 5 does give you 25, so you are correct. So almost forgot about that. Now, sometimes the variable will be on the right-hand side. Now, a lot of times you'll solve them on the left-hand side, so it's okay to flip it around. The 27 equals 5n minus 8. Well, this side is equal to this side. So if you put the 5n minus 8 first and then the 27 on the back end of it, it's not going to make any difference. They're still both equal to each other. It's the exact same thing, just on opposite sides now. So I want to get rid of any adding or subtracting of regular numbers first. So that minus 8, I get rid of it by adding 8. I'll add 8 over here on this side. Leaves you down to just 5n equals 35. Now, I want to get rid of that times 5, so I divide by 5 here. And remember, a number divided by itself is 1, and 1 times n doesn't do anything for us. And 35 divided by 5 gives us 7, so n is equal to 7. I can double check. 5 times 7 is 35, minus 8. Yes, that gives me the 27 that I was looking for. All right. Negative 2m plus 6 equals 0. So I get rid of a plus 6 by subtracting 6 from each side and get rid of that. And 0 minus 6 is negative 6. So I got negative 2 times m equals negative 6. I'm going to divide each side by a negative 2. That is important that I have that negative sign with it. I want to get rid of all that because I don't want a negative m equals something. I want just a normal m. So instead of times by negative 2, I divide by negative 2. Clears that out of there, and divide by negative 2 on this side. Negative 6 divided by negative 2 gives you a positive 3, because remember, negative divided by negative is a positive. So let's double check. Negative 2 times a positive 3 gives us a negative 6. Negative 6 plus 6 does give us 0, so that's good. All right, over here, I want to get rid of my minus 12 first. Remember, any adding or subtracting of regular numbers you try to get rid of first. So I add 12, and then I got left with a negative 3p, and left with 12 over here. I'll divide each side by a negative 3. Remember, I'm going to get rid of that negative sign if all possible. And divide by negative 3 here, and this eliminates it here, leaves me just p. 12 divided by a negative 3 does give me a negative 4. So let's double check our work. Negative 3 times a negative 4 gives me a positive 12. 12 minus 12 is 0. All right, now here's a scenario where I could do it in 2 different ways. First way I'm going to show you is to distribute like we worked on yesterday. 4 times c and 4 times 9 gives me 4c plus 36 equals 28. All right, now that's just like we've been solving for our last few problems. Get rid of the plus 36 by subtracting 36 from each side, and that leaves me over here with a negative 8. And all left is over here is a 4c. So I want to get rid of the times 4, so divide by 4, c equals a negative 2. So if I double check this here, negative 2 plus 9 is 7, and then 4 times 7 does give me a 28. Now there's a different way to do this problem here. Instead of distributing first, because it's technically 4 times the quantity of c plus 9. What if I divide it by 4 first? Divide by 4 clears out that times 4. I won't have to distribute. Divide by 4 here, and I get a 7. Now I'm left with a c plus 9 equals 7, and instead of a plus 9, I minus 9. Minus 9 leaves me with a negative 2. We know negative 2 worked on the other side also. So there's 2 different ways I could have done that. We'll take a look at one more of those type. If I distribute first, negative 7 times the quantity of a plus 3, I get a negative 7a, and then negative times a positive gives me a negative 21, so it's a minus 21. It's equal to negative 14. The opposite of minus 21 is to add 21, add 21. It leaves me with a positive 7 on this side. I get negative 7a equals 7. And I don't want that negative 7 hanging out with my a anymore, so I divide by a negative 7 on both sides. Divide by a negative 7, and that clears out this side, and a positive divided by a negative is a negative, and 7 divided by 7 is 1. Let me double check. A negative 1 plus 3 gives me 2. A negative 7 times a positive 2 is a negative 14. So I know the negative 1 works. Now let's look what happens if I did not distribute. Instead of distributing and multiplying to this quantity, I'm going to divide by negative 7 to each side first. Clears out this side, and negative 14 divided by negative 7 is a positive 2. So I'm left with a plus 3, because I haven't touched the inside the parentheses yet. A plus 3 equals 2. So I'll get rid of a plus 3 by minus 3, a equals negative 1. So either way, you can solve those ones. All right. Now sometimes you're going to see them set up like a slash or some division here. I got x divided by 5 plus 6 equals 14. Well, I kind of rewrote it a little bit so it looks like it's over the top of it. But you get rid of still same process, get rid of any adding or subtracting of regular numbers first. And instead of a plus 6, I minus 6. And minus 6. And that leaves me just x divided by 5 here. 14 minus 6 gives me 8. So I want to get rid of divide by 5. The opposite of division is multiply. So instead of divide by 5, I times by 5. Cancels this out. And times by 5 on this side to keep everything equal. 8 times 5 gives me 40. So let me double check. 40 divided by 5 is 8. And 8 plus 6 is 14. So that does work. All right, we got one more to go. This one's set up a little differently. Now it's the quantity of g plus 7. This whole chunk is being divided by 8, and it's going to equal 3. So let's rewrite this and kind of get a different view of it. G plus 7, all divided by 8, equals 3. Well, let's get rid of that whole divided by 8 chunk first. So instead of dividing by 8, I'm going to times by 8, do the opposite. That'll cancel that part out. Times by 8 here, and I get 24. So now, instead of that whole chunk being divided, I got rid of all that. Now let's just g plus 7 equals 24. Now I just take away 7 from each side, and it leaves me with just the g, it leaves me with 17. And let's see what this would work. If I had 17 plus a 7, it gives me 24. And 24 divided by 8 does give me 3. So there we go. And be very careful when you do work with the two-step equations, because sometimes there's a few tricks that you got to make sure you do remember. So thank you for watching, and good luck on your assignment.